For USCFootball.com, I'm Jack Smith, alongside Connor Morrissette for instant analysis from USC's Wednesday evening practice of Arizona Week. Connor, what were some of your biggest practice observations today?
I usually watch the linebackers on Wednesday, and today was no different. Eric Gentry, I think he's sick of playing only 9 snaps, Jack. The linebackers, they were doing a drill where they were trying to shed blocks against some of the scout team offensive linemen, and on 2 reps in a row, Eric Gentry threw the scout offensive lineman, who I won't name to embarrass them, to the ground on back-to-back plays. So that was impressive. The other thing I picked up, Traquan Fagans was working with Alex Grinch, and Grinch had him repeat a rep because he didn't like what he was doing with his hips. That was really the only two. Those were really the only 2 observations that are noteworthy today. But Eric Gentry, don't be surprised if he has some juice coming in this week against Arizona.
The noise around Alex Grinch is probably as loud as it's ever been. He does not show it at practice. He is very vocal with the entire secondary. He leads them through tackling drills, which they do before practice. They tackle each other. They take each other out of bounds. They often bring out that donut that they roll for tackling. So it's the corners and the safeties. He's working with them. Then he works with the safeties one-on-one, having them flip their hips. But he was out there, he was giving each of them individual instruction, saying practice reps.
And reps are valuable, I think.
Reps are valuable, trying to get them to get the most out of practice. So he's still being very vocal with the group. Whether Trojan fans like him or not, he is putting in his full effort to try and make this defense work, especially in the secondary. But we also got to talk to Caleb Williams today. Caleb Williams, not a criticized Trojan really at all, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, coming off a 6-touchdown performance against Colorado. What did you take away from what Caleb had to say?
Well, I was really curious, Jack. It's not every game that you see Caleb take the hit that he took from Colorado corner Amarian Cooper, that corner blitz where Caleb just didn't see him. He got leveled. I asked him what he saw in that play and if he'd ever taken a hit that hard in his career. He said at the end he'd never taken a hit that hard, so credit to Cooper for laying the biggest hit of Caleb Williams' career on him. And he also said that Colorado, they had only run that play once in their past few games. So USC wasn't really expecting it, even though they did do it one time before. And Caleb just he said, they gave us a shot and it didn't kill us. We kept going. So Caleb acknowledged that Colorado, they hit him and it was a big hit, and he gave him credit, but he said, that didn't kill us. We kept going. And I think he threw 2 more first half touchdowns after that. So credit to him. But I was surprised that he did take that hit and that they didn't work through that on film and weren't expecting it. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, he said normally he doesn't take hits like that, but he didn't do a good job recognizing this one. He said just credit to the defensive staff for Colorado, defensive coordinator, for putting that play into action and giving USC something that they hadn't really shown throughout the majority of the season. Caleb also talked about the Arizona defense, which we talked about a little bit yesterday. I'm sure we'll talk about it on Tunnel Vision tomorrow. But Arizona had, maybe the best defensive performance against any team that's played Washington so far this year. Caleb called Washington a very high-powered offense, but said Arizona did a really good job limiting the big plays. What did you take away from what Caleb said on that?
Yeah, limiting the big plays was important. And Dennis Simmons also talked about how Arizona did a nice job of keeping everything in front of them and not getting beat deep, and Caleb touched on that as well. So I think that's been an emphasis this week. I expect USC, they start so fast always. Maybe they'll get an explosive play, maybe not. But I know early in the game, look for a lot of bubble screens and short passes, just stuff to get going, because they're going to take what Arizona gives them. If they play the 7 defensive backs like they did a couple times against Washington, that team, they sit back, they don't want to get beaten by explosive plays. I imagine what they did to Washington will be somewhat similar to what they did to USC, so we'll see going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if Jedd Fisch opts for some trickery as well, just kind of what the hell, well, let's try what Arizona State did a little bit, so maybe USC will have to be ready for that on the other side of the ball. But for the USC offense, I think they know that Arizona, they want to limit those big plays. Caleb talked about it, and so did Dennis Simmons.
Yeah, Washington only had 1 big-time throw. It was to a tight end kind of leaking out down the left sideline. So that great receiving core that Washington has was not able to kind of get behind the defense, which is something Arizona did a good job of. The Trojans have struggled, with past staffs not being able to play well against teams that drop 8, but I think USC probably leans on the run game a little bit more. They throw underneath, which is what Washington did, and Michael Penix racked up the passing yards, didn't get in the end zone with a passing touchdown, but they're going to use that underneath game, I would assume, because I think Arizona's going to come into the Coliseum looking to do the same thing against USC. And Caleb Williams kind of summed it up. He's like, well, the mindset you have to have is when you get a shot, you have to hit it, because the opportunities are going to come around less for those big plays. So when you have an opportunity, you've got to be able to seize it. We also got to talk to a lot of other different Trojan players today. What did you take away from anything that they had to say?
We heard from Justin Dedich and Jonah Monheim, 2 of the top offensive linemen for USC, and Justin said they were out-physicaled against Colorado, which was a surprise, and Jonah said that as well. I think the exact term from Justin Dedich was physically beaten against Colorado, which was somewhat of a surprise, especially in the run game in the second half. Justin also talked about how that was a learning experience. So I think this week the offensive line, they're kind of licking their wounds a little bit and excited to set the record straight against an Arizona team that might not be as talented defensively defensively as Colorado is. I keep tripping over my words here. That was the biggest takeaway I had, just that the offensive line, I don't want to say humbled, but I don't think they were happy with how they played against Colorado. Out physical, that's a pretty damning thing to say coming out of a game like that when you were such big favorites as well. So we'll see how the offensive line responds this week. I think they'll do a nice job.
Yeah, Jonah Monheim said that they've got to focus more on the details this week. Some of the little things technique-wise, whether it's pulling blocks or combo blocks or just one-on-one blocks, that USC needs to do a better job just refining the details. And I wonder, it is easy for an offensive line potentially to kind of slow down a bit, especially after two games where they were so dominant against Stanford and Arizona State. Colorado kind of came back, hit them in the mouth, and we'll see how USC responds down the schedule against Arizona. Monheim was also asked, how he likes blocking for Marshawn Lloyd, who, according to PFF, the highest-graded running back in the country so far this year. What did you take away from that?
He said he loves it, and why wouldn't he? Marshawn Lloyd, he fights so hard, so he's really happy with his new teammate from South Carolina. I thought it was interesting, Jack, Marshawn Lloyd in his interview, I know we'll get to a little bit more of what he said in a little bit. He went from 208 pounds to like 215, 217 pounds. He's trying to gain weight, and he's at a good weight right now, according to Kyle McDonald. That's what Marshawn Lloyd said. So not only has the star running back beefed up, but the offensive lineman loves blocking for him, which makes a lot of sense. He makes him look really good, especially on those plays where he cuts back and scores a touchdown like he did early against Colorado. So, yeah, that was the big takeaway. Jonah Monheim loves blocking for Marshawn Lloyd, and why wouldn't he?
Yeah, Monheim said, with the backs USC has, whether it's Lloyd or Austin Jones, Quentin Joyner, Darwin Barlow, that they were told by Josh Henson coming into the season, here's what you have to do on those plays. You obviously can't afford a penalty, so no blindside blocks, no blocks in the back. You just kind of have to try and nudge them a little bit, just kind of get an edge on them so that the running back has room to cut back. And we asked Marshawn about that play specifically. He said they really bottled up what USC was trying to do in the run game early. It felt like they were really selling out to stop what they did against Arizona State. And so he noticed that when the entire defense was on one side of the field, the other side would be open. He turned around, he saw Taj Washington and Caleb Williams, and obviously we know Taj Washington's a great blocker. Caleb Williams threw a great block that he said he was pretty happy about, and then he just realized at one point that he could take it to the house. So it was cool to hear what he looked through on that play, obviously getting the block from Caleb Williams and then being able to watch it back in the film room.
It sounded like he got a stern talking to based on his celebration as well. He said LeBron James was his idol, and he did a LeBron James celebration. Kyle McDonald and some of the coaching staff said, don't do that again. We don't want to see that, especially on the road. And we all kind of laughed about it in the media scrum, so that was cool. We also learned that LeBron James is Marshawn Lloyd's idol, and he reposted the clip of Lloyd scoring that touchdown on Instagram, I believe, and Reggie Bush did as well. And he said he got goosebumps when he saw those guys putting them on their story. So that was really cool, just that Marshawn Lloyd was getting so much love from some big-time athletes on Instagram. And I mean, it looks to me, Jack, like, don't be surprised if Marshawn Lloyd, he goes to the NFL and he keeps making plays like this, and one day he's the guy who's putting the play of the younger guy in his story, and people are looking up to him. He has that kind of potential.
It was funny because he was like, yeah, I'm not going to do one of those celebrations again. And then he started like, well, LeBron James reposted it, so like it worked. He saw it. Reggie Bush reposted it. But he said, it may be a different point for the celebration. The silencer after the first touchdown of the game is maybe not the best time to pull out that LeBron James kind of celebration. But we got to talk to Lloyd about a bunch of different things. He was obviously very entertaining like he normally is. And the thing about his weight was very interesting because he was talking about how strict he is with his diet, and his body, if he puts the wrong things into it, just feels weird. He feels fatigued, so he's very strict about what he eats. But then he said Kyle McDonald's like, well, we don't want you to be too lean. We want you to be a big back. So he now has to have a cheat meal every other day for dinner. So it's either insomnia cookies or Shake Shack. But so he went down. He was at like that 215 range, went down to 208. Now he's gotten back up, and he's got the cheat meals to thank, and probably Kyle McDonald too.
It's funny. He sounded like my body is a temple guy, and then he mentioned the cheat days, and I don't know what kind of fuel that's providing him. It's giving him weight, but that just was giving me a stomach ache. The insomnia cookies mixed with the cheeseburgers from the burger place, that seemed like a lot, but hey, it's working, and he, I think, is second in the country in yards per carry, over 8 yards per carry right now. So don't change the diet. Keep doing what you're doing, Marshawn. It's working really well.
All right, before we wrap it up, I got to ask you, what's your cheat meal?
I love In-N-Out. I get 2 double-doubles with just...
You just said burgers would give you a stomach ache.
With a cookie combination. And In-N-Out is the only place that doesn't give me a... Thanks for calling me on that. In-N-Out is the only fast food place that doesn't give me a stomach ache. It's really weird. Even Shake Shack does too. But yeah, so I get 2 double-doubles with just cheese and ketchup from In-N-Out, and if I'm starving, I get fries. If not, just the 2 burgers.
Are you a shake person or no?
I used to be, but that would definitely upset my stomach. I heard Miller Moss, though, on the Almost Pro USC football podcast say that he gets a triple-triple when he goes to In-N-Out. I didn't even know you could do that. Instead of getting 2 double-doubles, I might just opt for the triple-triple next time I'm at In-N-Out. That is crazy. Did you know you could do a triple-triple?
There's a quadruple. There's a 4-stack one. But yeah, you got to get the.
Who's eating those?
I would assume the offensive lineman. I don't know the defensive lineman. Some of the defensive interiors. I'm not quite sure. But the key at In-N-Out is you have to get a strawberry chocolate shake. Don't get Neapolitan because vanilla ruins the rest of those flavors. It kind of just melts into it. Get the chocolate and the strawberry. And my cheat meal is Panda Express. Panda Express. You go orange chicken and teriyaki chicken. I also like the string bean chicken, kung pao. They're all good. And then fried rice and the mixed vegetables because then it makes it healthy if you've got the vegetables next to it. But that's all we've got for you guys today for Instant Analysis. It was a jam-packed Wednesday here at Howard Jones Field, and USC on 7:30 at night, another late one. We'll take on Arizona in the Coliseum. But it'll be an interesting one. We'll see whether the Arizona defense can hold up against the USC offense like it did against Washington, or can the Trojans come back and kind of get back to their winning ways of blowing teams out like they had earlier in the season. They've had a couple close wins in a row, and they'll have to kind of get things right before going to Notre Dame. But anyways, for Connor Morrissette, I'm Jack Smith. Check out uscfootball.com for more.